Some motorcycle brands are built to last, but even legends can fall. In 2025, some of the biggest names in motorcycling are on the brink of collapse. From iconic cruisers to historic sport bikes, these brands are fighting for survival, and the reasons behind their decline might shock you. Number 5. Harley-Davidson, the American icon on life support. Harley-Davidson is not just any motorcycle, it is an American legend. But in the year 2025, that legend is starting to feel more like a ghost. For generations, Harley-Davidson was synonymous with freedom, rebellion, and the open road. Yet today, the iconic brand that once dominated the American landscape is struggling to keep up with the times, and the reasons are as complex as they are troubling. One of the most significant issues plaguing Harley-Davidson today is pricing. The days of affordable, attainable Harleys are long gone. Models that once symbolized the working-class dream of riding into the sunset now come with sky-high price tags that feel more like betrayal than ambition. Take, for example, the Fat Bob 114. It starts at $13,000, but by the time a rider factors in freight charges, dealership markups, and necessary upgrades, the final price can easily exceed $17,000. And that is just the entry-level scenario. Harley's flagship touring models such as the Road Glide CVO, Street Glide CVO, and Ultra Limited routinely break the $40,000 barrier. These bikes, once seen as the ultimate long-distance touring machines, are now priced far out of reach for the average rider. The problem is not just the cost itself, it is the perception that Harley-Davidson has abandoned the very people who made the brand iconic in the first place. While other manufacturers are constantly innovating, Harley-Davidson remains stuck in the past. The brand continues to rely heavily on its Milwaukee 8 engine, an air-cooled V-twin that, while undeniably classic, has not seen meaningful upgrades in years. Meanwhile, competitors like Indian and Honda have embraced liquid-cooled engines, ride modes, digital displays, and cutting-edge safety systems. The difference becomes stark when comparing Harley's lineup with that of other major brands. While Indian offers models like the Scout with modern performance features, and Honda brings high-tech innovations to the Goldwing, Harley-Davidson sticks to familiar gauges and a nostalgic rumble. Harley-Davidson's attempt to break into the electric market with the Livewire was supposed to mark a new chapter in the company's history. However, it turned out to be an expensive misstep. Launched at nearly $30,000, the Livewire offered less than 150 miles of range, and many riders simply shrugged. Harley's core demographic, middle-aged, traditional bikers, was never the ideal market for an electric motorcycle, and younger riders balked at the price. The failure of the Livewire to connect with buyers forced Harley to spin it off into its own brand, essentially distancing itself from the very innovation it had hoped would breathe new life into its lineup. The Revolution Max engine found in models like the Pan America and the Sportster S showed promise, but instead of overhauling the entire lineup with this modern power plant, Harley left these bikes isolated, surrounded by an aging fleet that still worshipped the past. One of the most telling signs of this shift can be seen in the used market. A 2015 Road Glide with fewer than 20,000 miles can be found for around $15,000, and it delivers nearly the same experience as the current model. Why pay $40,000 for a new bike when a slightly older model offers the same aesthetic and feel? Despite the clear signals from the market, Harley-Davidson remains stubbornly attached to its legacy. The brand's marketing still emphasizes the rebellious spirit of the 1960s and 70s, but that narrative feels increasingly out of place in 2025. Younger riders want bikes that fit their lifestyle, not ones that dictate it. Brands like Yamaha and Honda understand this shift, offering cruisers that balance heritage with modernity. Even Indian has managed to modernize without completely abandoning its roots. In contrast, Harley-Davidson's adherence to tradition has turned into a liability. The brand is no longer the undisputed king of the road, but rather a relic of an era that is fading fast. Its core demographic is not just getting older, it is shrinking. If Harley-Davidson does not adapt soon, it risks becoming a niche brand, catering to a dwindling group of purists, rather than leading the market as it once did. It is not too late for Harley-Davidson to turn things around, but it will require a willingness to evolve without abandoning what makes the brand special. Embracing innovation, diversifying its lineup, and appealing to a broader range of riders are critical steps. The brand's most recent attempts, like the Pan America, show that Harley can break from tradition without losing its identity entirely. Harley-Davidson's struggle to keep up with the times is shocking, but the next brand on our list took a bold risk, and it backfired spectacularly. We've put in the time to dig deep into why these legendary motorcycle brands are on the brink, and the real reasons behind their fall might surprise you. If you appreciate thorough research like this, make sure to hit subscribe and stay tuned for more in-depth analysis. Number 4. KTM. Ambition gone wrong. KTM has long been synonymous with off-road supremacy, aggressive styling, and powerful performance. The brand built its reputation by offering motorcycles that could dominate the dirt and tackle the toughest terrains with ease. However, in the year 2025, the Austrian motorcycle giant finds itself grappling with a monumental crisis. What was once a brand celebrated for its engineering prowess and competitive spirit is now fighting just to survive. KTM's downfall is not just a story of economic hardship, it is a tale of ambition gone wrong. In the early 2020s, KTM set its sights on global domination. The company aimed to solidify its presence in established markets while also expanding aggressively into emerging ones. This strategy seemed sound at first. KTM increased production to over 1,000 motorcycles per day, banking on soaring demand and a rapidly growing customer base. Unfortunately, that growth did not materialize. Instead, the company found itself with a surplus of unsold bikes, and the dream of global expansion quickly turned into a nightmare. One of the critical factors that triggered KTM's crisis was its overestimation of market demand. In an attempt to outpace rivals like Yamaha, Honda, and Kawasaki, KTM flooded its production lines with new models. The plan was to offer a wide range of motorcycles, from high-performance off-road machines to entry-level commuter bikes. However, the market was not ready for such an influx, and the bikes started to pile up in warehouses, unsold and depreciating in value. Adding fuel to the fire, economic conditions began to shift dramatically. Inflation surged, interest rates spiked, and consumer spending took a hit. The financial pressures that followed made it even harder for KTM to move its inventory. Dealers across Europe and North America reported showrooms full of bikes that customers simply were not buying. The once vibrant brand now faced the grim reality of stagnant sales and dwindling cash flow. Compounding KTM's problems was the loss of its strategic partnership with Bajaj Auto. Bajaj had been instrumental in KTM's earlier success, particularly in manufacturing smaller displacement bikes for emerging markets like India. However, when Bajaj sold its shares in 2021, KTM lost its access to cost-effective production in Asia. As a result, manufacturing costs soared and the brand struggled to maintain its competitive edge. The loss of the Bajaj connection was a severe blow, especially at a time when efficiency and cost management were crucial. To cope with the growing financial strain, KTM initiated a series of drastic measures. Factories that had once hummed with productivity fell silent as production lines were halted. The company froze development on future models, putting promising projects on indefinite hold. Layoffs swept through the organization, with engineers, designers, and logistics specialists bearing the brunt. More than 300 employees were let go, leaving KTM's workforce depleted and morale at an all-time low. The brand's ambitious expansion strategy had ultimately backfired, forcing it to shrink just to stay afloat. Even dealerships that once proudly showcased KTM's latest models found themselves in a bind. Showrooms were overstocked, and even hefty markdowns could not entice buyers. The brand's reputation for high performance, once unshakable, now seemed precarious as dealers and customers alike questioned whether KTM could recover from such a colossal miscalculation. Another significant issue that plagued KTM was its reliance on a dual strategy of premium performance in established markets and budget-friendly models in emerging ones. This approach worked during the company's rapid ascent, but it became a liability when global economic conditions shifted. Small displacement bikes, which carried thin profit margins, needed to be sold in massive volumes to remain profitable. When consumer interest waned, KTM was left with a vast inventory and not enough demand to support it. The production halt hit particularly hard in Europe, where KTM had recently invested heavily in upgrading its manufacturing capabilities. With bikes not moving from dealer floors, warehouses across the continent were filled to capacity. Dealers faced a tough choice: keep the bikes and hope for a rebound, or offload them at a significant loss. Most opted for the latter, but even discounted models failed to attract the usual level of interest. KTM's aggressive expansion strategy seemed promising on paper, but lacked the necessary flexibility to adapt to changing market conditions. Instead of scaling back when initial signs of trouble appeared, the company doubled down, convinced that its brand reputation would carry it through. Unfortunately, the gamble did not pay off. The brand's focus on high output left it vulnerable when demand collapsed. KTM's aggressive strategy might have been too much too fast, but the next brand's downfall was not just a failure to adapt. It was a branding blunder that left riders feeling betrayed. Number 3. Indian Motorcycles. The brand that lost its identity. Indian Motorcycles made a remarkable comeback, bringing with it the rugged spirit of classic American biking. Under the guidance of Polaris Industries, Indian was revived from near extinction and transformed into a brand that once again embodied the essence of heritage and power. The bikes looked bold, felt powerful, and retained enough old-school character to remind enthusiasts of the legendary machines that once dominated the roads. For a while, it seemed that Indian was not just back, but better than ever. Indian's revival story under Polaris was nothing short of remarkable. After decades of struggling to find its place in the modern motorcycle market, Indian re-emerged with bikes that captured the spirit of classic American motorcycling, while infusing just enough modern flair to feel relevant. The Indian Chief, Scout, and Roadmaster became synonymous with performance and style, offering an alternative to the long-standing dominance of Harley-Davidson. The combination of retro styling with innovative engineering made these bikes appeal to both older riders and a younger audience looking for a slice of history wrapped in modern performance. However, just as the momentum was building, a single decision rocked the entire brand, sparking a controversy that would ultimately harm Indian's loyal following. In the year 2023, the company announced a significant change to its branding strategy: the decision to retire the iconic Native American headdress logo from its bikes. Promotional materials and official branding was met with fierce backlash. For many devoted Indian riders, the logo was more than just a symbol. It represented a deep connection to the brand's storied past and cultural significance. The backlash was swift and intense. Online forums, social media pages, and motorcycle communities were flooded with angry responses. Some riders accused Indian of caving to corporate pressure and erasing a crucial part of its identity. Loyal customers who had supported Indian through its ups and downs felt betrayed. To them, the logo was a bridge to the past, a nod to the brand's original roots. The decision to replace it with a more modern, minimalist emblem seemed like a move to sanitize the brand rather than preserve its essence. While Polaris defended the decision as an effort to align with modern sensibilities and cultural awareness, the damage was done. The core customer base felt that the brand was distancing itself from the very culture that made it unique. As a result, Indian saw a notable decline in enthusiasm among its most dedicated followers. The emotional bond between the riders and the brand was fractured, and no amount of corporate messaging could mend it. Compounding the issue was the timing. Just as Indian was gaining traction with younger riders, the controversy pushed them away. The modern, sleek design of newer models like the Scout Bobber and FTR had attracted a fresh audience, but these potential buyers were more brand aware and critical of corporate decisions. Instead of being drawn in by the legacy, they became wary of a company that seemed unsure of its own identity. The decision to change the logo not only alienated longtime supporters, but also failed to capture the imagination of newer riders. While the Scout and the Chief continued to perform well, the sense of community and identity that Indian had built over the years took a significant hit. The backlash left dealerships struggling to maintain the same level of customer loyalty. Showroom presence dwindled as dealers reported fewer inquiries and less foot traffic. Adding to Indian's woes was the fact that the brand had been walking a delicate line between preserving authenticity and embracing modernity. While Harley-Davidson remained steadfastly tied to its classic identity, Indian had attempted to blend old-school charm with contemporary performance. This balancing act had worked well initially, but the logo change exposed a deeper issue: a brand caught between the desire to respect tradition and the pressure to modernize. Dealers across the country began to feel the impact. Indian's reputation for producing quality bikes remained intact, but the emotional connection was undeniably weaker. Motorcyclists who had once been proud to display the headdress emblem on their tanks and gear now questioned whether the brand still represented the same spirit. Some dealerships reported that loyal customers, particularly older riders, were hesitant to upgrade to newer models that lacked the familiar symbol. The controversy also had a ripple effect on Indian's branding strategy. Marketing campaigns became more cautious, avoiding references to the brand's cultural heritage. This only fueled the perception that Indian was abandoning its roots. Even as the bikes themselves continued to impress with reliable performance and sturdy builds, the brand's image had taken a hit that would not be easily repaired. Indian's identity crisis might be shocking, but the next brand on our list did not just quietly fade away, it completely vanished without a fight. Number 2. Mitsubishi Motorcycles. A silent exit. Some brands collapse with a bang. Mitsubishi Motorcycles simply faded into the shadows. But how did one of Japan's industrial giants quietly abandon the bike world? Mitsubishi Motorcycles once had the potential to become a major player in the motorcycle industry. During the post-war boom of the 1950s and 1960s, Mitsubishi developed sturdy and reliable small bikes and scooters that became popular across Japan. The Silver Pigeon was a prime example, a practical and efficient scooter that symbolized the company's commitment to building affordable utilitarian vehicles. These bikes were built to withstand everyday use, making them popular among commuters and delivery riders alike. Mitsubishi's industrial power and reputation for durable engineering gave the brand a strong foundation to compete against other Japanese manufacturers. For a brief period, it seemed like Mitsubishi was on track to challenge motorcycle giants like Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki. The company had the industrial muscle, the distribution reach, and the ambition to expand its presence in the growing motorcycle market. But despite the promising start, Mitsubishi never managed to establish a lasting foothold in the two-wheeled world. As the motorcycle wars intensified during the 1970s, Mitsubishi's focus began to shift entirely toward automobiles. While Honda was innovating with the CB series engines and Yamaha was investing in high-performance technology, Mitsubishi quietly began withdrawing from motorcycle production. The company prioritized its automotive division, where it saw greater potential for long-term growth and profitability. This strategic decision gradually pushed motorcycles to the sidelines. Mitsubishi's withdrawal from the motorcycle market was not marked by any grand announcement or official closure. Instead, the company simply stopped producing new models, scaled back its marketing efforts, and allowed its motorcycle division to fade into obscurity. By the early 1980s, Mitsubishi motorcycles had quietly disappeared, with no fanfare and little acknowledgement from the company itself. For many enthusiasts, it felt as though Mitsubishi had simply forgotten about its once promising motorcycle lineup. In recent years, there have been occasional rumors suggesting that Mitsubishi might return to the motorcycle market. As electric vehicles gained popularity, some speculated that Mitsubishi could leverage its expertise in electric cars to develop a new line of electric motorcycles. Patent filings, concept sketches, and whispered conversations in the industry hinted at a potential comeback. However, as of 2025, nothing concrete has emerged. The idea of Mitsubishi re-entering the motorcycle scene remains just that, a fleeting hope without substance. While Mitsubishi was gradually fading away from the motorcycle world, other Japanese brands like Honda and Yamaha continued to innovate and strengthen their global positions. Honda's dedication to developing versatile, reliable bikes kept it at the forefront of the industry, while Yamaha's investment in performance models ensured its place among enthusiasts. As these brands adapted to changing consumer demands, Mitsubishi's quiet retreat left a void that competitors eagerly filled. Mitsubishi's motorcycle legacy has now become little more than a nostalgic memory. Vintage enthusiasts and collectors occasionally showcase Silver Pigeon scooters at classic bike shows, but these appearances are rare. The company's once ambitious vision of becoming a two-wheeled powerhouse is now a distant memory. There are no official plans for a comeback, and even if Mitsubishi were to re-enter the market, it would face an uphill battle to regain relevance in a highly competitive environment. The most remarkable aspect of Mitsubishi's exit from the motorcycle market is how unceremonious it was. Unlike brands that collapse under the weight of financial mismanagement or scandal, Mitsubishi's departure was quiet, almost unnoticed. There were no major financial meltdowns or public controversies, just a gradual fading away as the company shifted its resources and focus entirely to automotive production. While some motorcycle brands leave behind passionate fan bases that keep the legacy alive, Mitsubishi motorcycles did not generate that kind of loyalty. Instead, the memory of its small bikes and scooters lives on as a niche interest among vintage collectors and enthusiasts who remember the brand's brief foray into the motorcycle world. In a sense, Mitsubishi's silent exit from motorcycling reflects the brand's pragmatic approach to business, choosing stability over the uncertainty of the motorcycle market. Today, Mitsubishi Motorcycles is remembered only in fragments. Old advertisements, faded logos, and a few scattered silver pigeons that still run, thanks to meticulous restoration. Unlike other brands that fight to the bitter end, Mitsubishi's approach was to simply step away, leaving its two-wheeled legacy to be quietly forgotten. As the motorcycle industry moves forward with electric innovations and new performance benchmarks, Mitsubishi's once promising dream of being a motorcycle leader feels more distant than ever. Mitsubishi's quiet retreat may be disappointing, but the next brand's fall is even more heartbreaking. It's a slow-motion collapse that no one seems able to stop. Number 1. Moto Guzzi, the legacy that's fading away. Moto Guzzi has been crafting motorcycles for over 100 years, earning a reputation as one of the most iconic Italian brands in the world. From the shores of Lake Como, the brand has maintained a tradition of craftsmanship and mechanical poetry, with bikes that embody a unique blend of heritage and rugged charm. Yet in the year 2025, this legendary name is slipping through the cracks. What went wrong for Moto Guzzi and why is it on the brink of extinction? The transverse V-twin engine was once revered for its unique design and robust power delivery. Yet as motorcycle technology has advanced, Guzzi has remained firmly rooted in the past. Despite some attempts at modernization such as adding more advanced fuel injection and minimal electronic aids, the core engine design has not significantly evolved since the 1970s. A major issue facing Moto Guzzi is not just the lack of innovation, but also the lack of market presence. The brand owned by the Piaggio Group finds itself overshadowed by more commercially successful siblings like Vespa and Aprilia. While Vespa continues to dominate the scooter segment and Aprilia excels in sport bike performance, Moto Guzzi's identity as a classic cruiser and touring brand has struggled to resonate with younger audiences. One of the most promising signs of life from Moto Guzzi came with the introduction of the V100 Mandello, a modern take on the classic Guzzi formula. The V100 Mandello features a liquid-cooled 1040 cubic centimeter V twin engine, producing around 115 horsepower and 75 pound-feet of torque. It also comes equipped with contemporary features such as a 6-axis inertial measurement unit, ride modes, and cornering anti-lock braking system. Weighing around 510 pounds, the bike offers an agile yet robust ride, a significant departure from Guzzi's traditionally heavier models. Despite the technological leap forward, the V100 Mandello alone cannot save the brand. Production numbers remain critically low, with Moto Guzzi manufacturing fewer than 10,000 units per year. This is a stark contrast to the booming output of competitors like Ducati and BMW, which produce hundreds of thousands of bikes annually. As a result, Moto Guzzi's presence on the global stage has dwindled to a niche following, with the brand rarely seen outside of dedicated enthusiast circles. The challenges facing Moto Guzzi are not limited to innovation and production alone. The brand also struggles to capture the attention of younger riders, who generally seek modern, lightweight, and technologically advanced motorcycles. Moto Guzzi's lineup, dominated by retro-styled cruisers and touring bikes, fails to match the dynamic appeal of brands like Triumph, which successfully blend classic aesthetics with contemporary engineering. This failure to attract a new generation of bikers is one of the core reasons behind Guzzi's decline. Adding to the brand's woes is the perception that Moto Guzzi is stuck in a time warp. While some brands have capitalized on nostalgia without compromising modern features, Guzzi's lineup too often feels like a throwback to a bygone era. The simplistic analog dials, minimalistic electronic aids, and classic styling may appeal to purists, but they do little to entice riders accustomed to sleek digital interfaces and customizable ride modes. Furthermore, Moto Guzzi's dealer network remains sparse compared to major competitors, making it harder for potential buyers to find, test ride, or service these bikes. In major markets like the United States, where cruiser culture remains strong, Guzzi's limited availability and outdated reputation make it difficult to compete with Harley-Davidson or Indian. Even in its native Italy, Guzzi faces stiff competition from Ducati's Scrambler lineup and Triumph's Bonneville series, which offer both retro appeal and modern performance. Despite the rich history and the passion of dedicated owners, Moto Guzzi's current trajectory does not inspire confidence. The brand's core appeal, timeless engineering and rugged simplicity, is increasingly perceived as an inability to modernize. While Moto Guzzi continues to produce unique and characterful motorcycles, they are often seen as niche products rather than mainstream contenders. Financially, the situation is no less grim. As a part of the Piaggio Group, Moto Guzzi has faced challenges in securing the level of investment needed for comprehensive modernization. While Piaggio has poured resources into revitalizing Vespa and developing high-performance Aprilia models, Guzzi has been left with limited budget allocations, resulting in long product cycles and minimal updates. This lack of corporate focus has only deepened the brand's struggles. As Moto Guzzi struggles to stay relevant, one thing's clear: nostalgia alone isn't enough to survive in today's competitive motorcycle market. Thanks for watching. Do you think these brands can turn things around, or are they destined to fade away? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth looks at the motorcycle world.